I have been dreaming of the same woman for as long as I can remember. Not every night, not in the same place, but always the same presence. She appears quietly, like a memory trying not to wake me. Sad eyes, a broken smile, a blue dress that moves gently, even when there is no wind. As a child, I thought everyone dreamed like that everyone carried a stranger in their sleep, someone familiar, yet unreachable. But as I grew older, I realized something was different. I never forgot her. Her face changed slightly over the years, older, softer, but the feeling remained the same. An ache I couldn't explain, a longing without a name. Sometimes she would stand across a field, watching me. Sometimes she would sit beside a window, waiting. And sometimes she would simply look at me as if she had been abandoned mid-sentence. I woke from those dreams with my heart racing, my chest heavy, as if I had just lost someone I loved. Yet in my waking life, she did not exist. Or so I believed. Years passed. Life happened the way it always does, quietly, without asking permission. I moved cities. I changed jobs. I learned how to be practical, how to ignore feelings that didn't come with explanations. Until one afternoon, wandering through a narrow street I had never noticed before, I stepped into a small antique shop. It smelled like dust and old paper. Time seemed slower inside, heavier. I wasn't looking for anything in particular when I saw it. A photograph. It was framed simply, placed among dozens of others. At first glance, it felt like a physical blow to my chest. I reached for it and almost dropped it, because staring back at me was her, the same woman from my dreams. The same sad eyes, the same broken smile, and the same blue dress. My hands trembled, as if my body recognized something my mind refused to accept. This wasn't possible. She wasn't supposed to be real. And yet, there she was, captured in time. Waiting, something inside me whispered a truth I wasn't ready to hear. I hadn't been dreaming of her. I had been remembering. I bought the photograph without asking questions. I didn't negotiate the price. I didn't even ask who she was. The shopkeeper wrapped it carefully, his hands slow, almost reverent. "You have good taste," he said, glancing at the frame. "There are stories that choose their owners." I laughed politely, but something tightened in my chest. At home, I placed the photograph on my desk. The room felt different with her there, as if the walls were listening. That night, sleep came faster than usual, and so did the dream. I was standing in a place I didn't recognize, yet somehow knew by heart. A quiet garden pale with moonlight. The air smelled of rain and something old, like memories that had never faded. She stood before me, not distant this time, not silent. Her blue dress moved gently, as if touched by a breeze I couldn't feel. Her eyes met mine with a sadness that felt unbearable, the kind of sadness that comes from waiting too long. I tried to speak. I tried to ask her name, but the words refused to come. She took a step closer, and then she spoke. "You promised you would come back." Her voice wasn't accusing. It was tired, soft, filled with the kind of pain that survives years, even lifetimes. I woke up gasping for air, my sheets damp with sweat. My heart pounded as if it had just remembered how to beat. Her words echoed in my mind. "You promised." I sat up, staring at the photograph across the room. In the dim light, it felt as though her eyes followed me. I told myself it was nothing, a coincidence fueled by imagination, grief without an origin. But the feeling wouldn't leave. Over the next days, fragments of her voice returned at unexpected moments, while brushing my teeth, while walking down the street, while staring at nothing in particular. And with it came emotions that didn't belong to my life. Jealousy, devotion, guilt. Guilt was the strongest, as if I had failed someone deeply, as if I had left and never returned. I began to research. Libraries first, then archives. old census records, newspaper collections that smelled of ink and dust. I searched for her face without knowing her name, for a woman in a blue dress, for a story that might explain why my dreams felt more real than my waking life. Weeks passed, until one afternoon, buried in the brittle pages of a local newspaper archive, I found her. The photograph stared back at me once again. Younger, sharper, undeniably her. Below it, a simple caption stopped my breath completely. Clara, 24, engaged to a soldier who disappeared before their wedding. The date printed above the article read, 1912. My hands shook as I traced the letters of her name. Clara. And suddenly I knew. The dreams weren't memories of love. They were memories of waiting. And somewhere in the past, I was the one who never came back. I stared at Clara's name for a long time, not because it was unfamiliar, but because it felt impossibly close. Clara. I whispered it aloud, testing the sound, and felt something shift inside my chest, like a door opening to a room I had locked long ago. The article was brief, too brief for a life that had clearly ended unfinished. It spoke of her engagement, of a wedding planned for early spring, of a soldier who left for duty and never returned. No body, no explanation, only absence. I scanned the page again and again, my eyes drawn to the final line. Presumed lost, not dead. Lost. My fingers trembled as I turned the page, half expecting, half fearing what I might find next. And then I saw it. A second article, smaller, almost hidden. It listed the names of soldiers reported missing that year. I didn't want to read them. Something inside me already knew. But my eyes moved on their own. One name stood out immediately, because it was mine. Not similar, not close, identical. First name, last name, spelled exactly as I spell it today. I felt the air leave my lungs. My mind scrambled for logic. A coincidence, a common name, a cruel trick of history. But logic dissolved when I noticed the handwriting beside the list. A signature at the bottom of the report. The curves of the letters. The way the L leaned slightly forward. The long tail at the end of the final letter. It was my handwriting. I had seen it every day of my life. I stumbled back from the desk, heart pounding, as fragments of unfamiliar memories pressed against my thoughts. A train station, a promise whispered too quickly. Clara's hands cold in mine, her blue dress brushing against my coat. I'll come back, I heard myself say. Not in my voice now, but in another voice that still belonged to me. I left the archive shaking. That night, sleep didn't wait for me. The dream took me immediately. Clara stood closer than ever before, her eyes filled not with sadness now, but relief. You remembered, she said softly. I tried to speak, to apologize, to explain, but she shook her head gently. You were taken from me, she whispered. Not by choice. Her hand reached for mine, and when our fingers touched, I felt it, the unbearable weight of a promise broken by time itself. I woke with tears on my face, and one certainty burning through me. I had loved her once, not in a metaphor, not in a dream, but in a life that history erased, and whatever had kept us apart then was no longer finished with us now. I didn't look at the photograph again that night. I was afraid of what it might awaken, or worse, of what it might confirm. The next morning, sunlight filled the room gently, as if the world was unaware that something inside me had fractured. I made coffee. I stood by the window. I pretended to be a man living an ordinary life. But the photograph waited. It rested on my desk, silent and patient, as if it had all the time in the world. With trembling hands, I picked it up again. I studied Clara's face once more, the way her eyes held a question, the way her lips curved into a smile that seemed unfinished. And then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The frame. It was newer than the photograph itself. Carefully restored, protective. Someone had wanted to preserve her. I turned it over. At first, I saw nothing, only the yellowed backing, brittle with age. But when the light struck it just right, there it was, writing. Faint, almost erased by time. I held my breath and tilted the photograph closer to the window. The words slowly revealed themselves, as if they had been waiting for me to remember how to read them. Written in pencil, uneven, hurried, were these words: "If I do not return, I promise I will find you again. In another life." My knees weakened. The handwriting wasn't mine now. It was younger, less controlled, but unmistakably familiar. I had written this, not as a poet, not as a dreamer, but as a man terrified of leaving behind the woman he loved. A memory surged through me with painful clarity. A narrow room, a packed bag. Clara standing by the door, her blue dress folded carefully over her arm. Her eyes filled with fear she tried to hide. "I'll wait," she said, "however long it takes." And I had answered without hesitation. "I'll come back," I promised. "And if I can't, I'll find you again." The room around me felt suddenly too small for the truth settling inside me. Clara hadn't haunted my dreams. She had waited for me across time. All these years, all these lives, she had remembered. And I had not. The realization hurt more than the fire ever could. Not because I had loved her before, but because she had loved me long enough to believe I would return. I pressed the photograph to my chest, overwhelmed by a grief that did not belong solely to this life. And in the silence that followed, one thought echoed louder than all the others. I had found her again, but what if this time it was already too late? I didn't dream of Clara that night. For the first time since childhood, sleep came without her. No blue dress, no waiting eyes, no quiet sadness hovering at the edge of my thoughts. And somehow that silence felt heavier than all the dreams combined. Days passed, then weeks. I carried the photograph with me everywhere. Not in my pocket, but in my awareness, like a truth that refused to loosen its grip. I returned to the antique shop, hoping irrationally that someone there might know more. The shopkeeper looked at the photograph for a long moment before speaking. "She's been here before," he said calmly. My heart stopped. "Not recently," he added, "but many years ago. She came often, always quiet, always asking if anyone had come looking for that photograph." I swallowed hard. "How long ago?" He thought for a moment. "Long enough that she should have been old," he said, "but she never seemed to age." I left the shop shaking. That night I dreamed of her again, but this time she wasn't waiting. She stood beneath a pale sky, her blue dress gently brushing the ground. Her eyes were peaceful now. "Whole, you found me," she said softly. "I'm sorry," I whispered. The words broke open everything inside me. "I didn't remember. I left you alone." She smiled. Not the broken smile from my dreams, but one filled with relief. "You didn't abandon me," Clara said. "You were taken, and I chose to wait." I reached for her, fear tightening my chest. "What happens now?" She stepped closer, placing her hand over my heart. "Now I can rest," she replied, "because you remembered, and because this time you came back." The world around us softened, edges blurring like a photograph left too long in the sun. "I loved you in every life," she said gently, "even when you forgot me." Tears streamed down my face as her figure began to fade. "I'll remember you," I promised. This time, the promise didn't feel borrowed. She nodded once. "I know." I woke just before dawn, my chest aching, but lighter. The photograph on my desk was unchanged, but when I turned it over, the pencil writing was gone. In its place, written clearly as if freshly etched, were three simple words: "You came back." I understood then. The pain wasn't in discovering who I had been. It was in realizing what I had lost by forgetting. But love, real love, doesn't disappear when memory fails. It waits, and this time, she remembered me long enough for me to finally remember her.